I want to talk with you a little bit where you come from. What was, the point where you said, I want to go to the fitness industry, what you're doing now, what could be perhaps interesting for my followers to join some camps or something, what you do now, and where will be the future. So where you start?
I started out a young kid, central Pennsylvania, a little town called Carlisle, very similar to Germany. A lot of German people emigrated there in the 1700s. After graduating high school, I went to university and majored in health and physical education. And my sport the whole way through, from the time I was 10, was wrestling, ringing.
What brings you to wrestling with 10 years?
I was just good at it. I wasn't good at anything. I was a small boy, and they have weight classes in wrestling. So it doesn't matter how big.
But before, why you took wrestling and not basketball or football, this American sports? Do you had some fights, or you have to fight in your class, or what was it?
I played football in junior high school and high school, but I was small. I wasn't particularly good at it. Basketball too short.
Well, it was me the same.
Wasn't fast enough, and I just didn't like it that much. Track and field I tried, but once again, wasn't fast enough to be a sprinter. Didn't have the slow twitch muscles to be a distance runner. Too small to throw a javelin or do pole vault, I just didn't have that type of, but man, the wrestling, everyone finds what they like. But after, I decided pretty early that I wanted to be a physical education teacher. And I graduated from the School of Health and Physical Education with a degree in exercise science, and started teaching in the public school system outside of Philadelphia. But it's a rough job, working with kids. And the fitness industry was just starting at that time. And I realized, wow, I really enjoy working with adults more.
What did your parents say when you said, I want to be a fitness instructor? Is that, great choice? Or?
Oh, they were very much behind it. My father was a very active guy. He was a boxer in the U.S. Navy during World War II. And he was the Pacific Fleet bantamweight champ. Out of all those thousands of sailors and Marines and so forth, they used to have big fights on the aircraft carriers, and all the ships would come and dock during the war, and they would make a ring, and they'd have a whole evening of fights. And he was the bantamweight champ of the Pacific Fleet. So he was a good boxer, and he was real good at playing sport. And so he was very encouraging for me.
And what was the reason why you chose a fitness instructor? What was the motive to do this? Because to help, or you saw?
The people that really impressed me the most were my own coaches, my physical education teachers. I admired and respect them very much, and I wanted to be very much like them. One guy in particular made a big impression on me because he spent a lot of time, paid a lot of attention to me, gave me a lot of encouragement. So.
In what age?
I guess like 12, 13 years old. Very impressive.
Was like a first mentor for you? Or?
First mentor.
Yeah.
And my father bought me a barbell set from York, Pennsylvania. That was the mecca of Olympic weightlifting in those days. A lot of people don't realize that the U.S. used to be top in Olympic weightlifting back in the 50s, 60s, even in the 1970s. And York, PA was right down the street. So my father would take me down there, and I watched the Olympic lifters training at York, Pennsylvania, and he bought me my first barbell. So I started with the weights, but never with the idea of becoming a weightlifter. I used the weights to make me better at my chosen sport, which is wrestling. And that's a big distinction. Using the strength modality to become a better athlete, not as a sport or as a goal unto itself. Like that.
As a tool to be better.
As a tool. But after teaching for a couple of years, though, after graduation, I realized, much rather work with adults. And there were some gyms in those days, the fitness centers, they called them. And it was mostly machines. Nautilus machines were extremely popular, the old Nautilus machines. And that swept the country like crazy. And I started working in a couple of Nautilus gyms.
And you competed a few years then? How many years you competed in wrestling?
Right through my NCAA years, through 70 through 74. And then after graduation, it's kind of hard because you're working, and when do you train in a sport like wrestling, because it's a university sport, they didn't have clubs and things.
Yeah.
So I was always looking for something to fill the void of wrestling.